And we're live on Facebook. It's Car Con Carne in quarantine. It's Quarantine Con Carne. I even changed the logo for the foreseeable future. I covered the logo in a mask because this is just where we're at. It's life with COVID-19. I'm James Van Oslo. Car Con Carne, Quarantine Con Carne is sponsored by C&H Financial Services. When this all goes away or is livable again, when it feels like February or January again, consider this: C&H Financial Services. If you are a business owner, you will want to reach out to them because they can help you eliminate 100% of the fees associated with credit and debit cards as a form of payment. You're going to want to spring back into action with something like this on your side. Freeprocessingnow.com is the web address for C&H Financial Services, or call 855-600-2437 extension 999 and start saving money today. Derrek Hull is my guest. He is the CEO of the Trotter Project. Derrek, thanks for coming on this. It's just a miserable night outside. It is suitably apocalyptic outside with thunder.
Thanks
and
for
rain.
having me. Yeah, I'm seeing the lightning and I'm hearing the thunder, and it just happened within the last 5 or so minutes.
My favorite is on social media. Just a couple minutes ago, people were posting the warnings they got on their cell phones saying, thunderstorms, possibly severe, make sure to stay inside. The irony is not lost on any of us.
Right.
All right.
Right.
I guess I'll stay in then. I was going to go hit the bars. So tell me what the Trotter Project is.
Sure. Yeah. So the Trotter Project, we're a 501c3 nonprofit, and we actually this month, April, I was just reminded that this is our 6th anniversary as of April that we've been in existence. It's Charlie Trotter, the late and great famous chef Charlie Trotter's nonprofit. We continue his work and his philosophy of giving back and being of service to others. And I think, James, we were talking about this with so many people. We're all sheltering in place and, from the comfort of our homes. And, what better way to, stay occupied if you're not watching Netflix than to be in the comfort of your kitchen and cook some really good home cooked food.
So, all right, let's talk about the new kitchen sessions on IGTV. So Charlie Trotter had kitchen sessions on PBS.
Right. Right. So it's a reboot. It's a 2020s version of the kitchen session. So
this is like Jordan. This is like Jordan Peele taking over Twilight Zone. Like if Trotter was Rod Serling.
Kind of, yeah. I'm going to have to make sure I incorporate that into my in my further conversations with folks. I love it. It's definitely. He did a 13-part series on PBS, and he would focus on one simple ingredient. One episode would focus on chocolate as an ingredient. Another one, for example, would focus on salmon, and so on and so forth. And so, we thought, as you and I were talking before we went live, we're told by Mayor Lightfoot, the governor, and so many of the government officials to stay home, and you spend more of your time than any part of the house in the kitchen. And so wanted to bring that back. And so it's a really fun riff on the kitchen sessions that he had on PBS. This time it's on IGTV, which I learned from the younger folks on my staff that's Instagram television.
Lean on them. They'll get you on TikTok in no time.
Exactly. Scary world.
So tell me what you've done and what you have planned for.
Yeah. We really pivoted in a big way because the Trotter Project, we typically are providing education and mentorship where we're bringing chefs, we're bringing educators together, we're bringing, master gardeners from Chicago's University of Illinois Master Gardeners program, and, really baking in that farm to classroom movement in the food deserts of the city of Chicago. So 3 of the neighborhoods that we primarily concentrate on are true food deserts: Englewood on the far south side, Chicago Lawn, and on the far west side of Austin. And so we thought, how can we keep kids and their parents? So how do we keep the kids, the students engaged and educated at the same time keeping the parents somewhat sane while they're quarantined with their kids? And so it really, we thought we didn't have to think really hard because Chef Charlie Trotter created this beautiful blueprint for us. And as he did with our pillars of excellence, came from his lessons in excellence and service that he taught at the restaurant over the 25 years. He also had the kitchen sessions. And so we thought people are home, they're in their kitchen, they're looking for home cooked recipes, skills, techniques, and other types of things to do in the kitchen to impress themselves and perhaps impress everybody on Zoom and social media. And so we thought, why not tap chefs here in Chicago and around the country, asking them for some really great recipes. And let's do something where we offer 3 to 5 minute or so videos that are pretty simple, simply focused. Home cooks can take these and they can do this themselves. And so Ina Pinkney, the famed breakfast queen right here in Chicago, who had her delicious restaurant for 21 years in the West Loop, she kicked off the series just last week, and it was a rare virtual introduction into her kitchen, where she taught viewers through the Trotter Project kitchen sessions how to make her famous buttermilk pancakes.
Sold. I remember going to Ina's when she was on Webster, when I was over by DePaul, even before. Yeah. I mean, she's legend for sure. I would pay attention to her buttermilk pancake recipes all day long.
So you get that, right? So she's giving you all these tips, on how to make buttermilk pancakes. And then you get a Michelin-starred chef, Richie Farina, who I used to work with at Moto Restaurant in the West Loop. Both he and I came out of Famaro Cantu's camp at Moto there. And he made buttermilk biscuits. So I think you're seeing a theme here that even though it's Charlie Trotter and people might think it's elevated cuisine, we're really making this very approachable. And that's exactly what the kitchen sessions on PBS was all about. It was teaching people these professional techniques that simplified it for the home cook. And so that's what we're doing through kitchen sessions on IGTV.
One of my favorite things about the situation we're in, one of the happy accidents, as everyone is doing things like this from home, as you're seeing bands do performances from their living room, that insight as a fan, as a foodie, as a music fan, you get to see how these people live. And it's kind of thrilling to be taken behind the curtain. Everyone loves behind the scenes stuff. So the idea of being shown Ina's kitchen over a show like that, there's a voyeuristic, wonderful aspect to that. This is access we don't get when the world is functioning as normal.
Well, and you'll know that everything that she has in her home kitchen has a heart on it, just as Ina's logo had the heart. And so the measuring spoon and measuring cup, they all have some, iteration of a heart on it. And you wouldn't normally see that because not everybody gets invited into Ina's kitchen.
Exactly. So tell me again, where do we find this? It's on IGTV. How frequently?
So it's every Tuesday and Thursday as of right now. We just launched it last week. So Tuesdays, Thursdays at noon Central Time, and we post them. You can watch them as soon as they get posted live at noon. But then, like as of right now, when the people are done listening to this and they've logged off Facebook after we're finished, they can go to the Trotter Project on Instagram, and they can find all of the videos. Thomas Keller, the famed chef out of Northern California, just did one for us from the French Laundry. So again, you think it's elevated cuisine because it's the great and iconic chef Thomas Keller, but what he's teaching you are simple, masterful knife, techniques on how to properly and masterfully cut a chicken.
Right, because at this time, even if we wanted to do something super high end, if we wanted to replicate what happens in the finest restaurants, a lot of us can't. We're at home. We don't want to go to the grocery store. We want to make do with what we have in our kitchen and pantry right now. So things like that. Okay, I've got a whole chicken. How am I going to get this thing apart? That's helpful information.
Yeah, we've got one with Chef Betty Frazier from Los Angeles that's coming up next week, and she's going to teach you. You've got probably canned goods in your somewhere in your cabinets, and so what are some simple recipes that you can make with canned tuna, for example, or canned beans? So these are not rocket science types of things, but you've got to feed yourself, you've got to feed your family, and so our chefs are really stepping up to the plate doing that.
I love it. I do want to thank a lot of people who are watching right now. I want to thank Dan and Mike and Jesus and Deb and Justin and Aaron and Eric, Shark, and Stephanie for watching right now. Thank you for doing that. Tell me, I guess let's take a step back. Tell me about, I'm well aware of who Charlie Trotter was. I'm well aware of his legend and his legacy. For someone who may be new to Chicago or just the food scene, explain, as not even an elevator pitch, but explain Charlie Trotter.
Yeah, so Charlie Trotter had a restaurant that was very world famous, and he really arguably put Chicago on the map for food, elevated food beyond what you would think of as Chicago hot dogs, which I personally love, and deep dish pizza. And he was very forward thinking. He loved Miles Davis. He loved jazz. In fact, the opening of the kitchen sessions with Charlie Trotter on PBS opened up with jazz because he really imparted, his cooking technique as jazz, the improvisation of it, to the style of cooking technique that he offered. He was the first chef in the country to come up with the concept of having a chef's table. And I worked for Mayor Daley at the time when both the Chicago Mayor Daley and Chef Trotter were in a bit of a spat about that because of health sanitation issues. And Charlie Trotter really, again, was the forward-thinking type of individual. And now we know chef's tables are all around the world.
Right.
And before a vegetable forward menu was in vogue in the early 90s, he was offering a vegetable forward menu, and that was something that was not done in major restaurants around the country. And he started on the scene in 1987 when your idea for Americans of fine dining was going to a French restaurant. So he really turned that paradigm upside down.
Changing the subject a little bit, what's your favorite Mayor Daley moment? I know mine.
Oh, I think his quote unquote conversations that he would have with Fran with the Chicago Sun-Times, those were always dynamic interview exchanges, and oftentimes I was in the room for him. But a great guy, a great forward thinker, and learned a lot from him as I was cutting my teeth as a young press secretary back in the early days.
My favorite Daley moment: the Xing out of Meigs Field. Waking up and seeing that in the news.
Yeah.
Only he could have done that. And I can't even imagine that happening in the present day. Can't even imagine something like that happening in 2020.
It was a different era. It was a different era.
But it wasn't that long ago, which is the thing. I mean, relatively speaking, but it was a different time.
I would walk into the office at the Chicago Cultural Center. I worked for the former commissioner of cultural affairs, Lois Weisberg, Cows on Parade, doing the Millie for the Millennium Dance, and who would have? We all thought, the mayor came up with this idea along with Commissioner Weisberg, of inviting two people from every country to ring in the new year when everyone else was trying to wear the tin caps and stocking up because of Y2K. Yeah. Here's the mayor inviting, because again, he really didn't care, and he was a forward thinker, inviting and welcoming people to Chicago. And the best way to bring in the new year was to invite two people from every country.
And of course, looking back from 2020 at Y2K, don't you think, oh, that's cute. That's really sweet that you were worried about that.
It's yeah. I was having this conversation with my mom a couple of days ago, and she goes, the parallels. There are some parallels, but Y2K was so adorable. Is the word she used.
That's it. So thinking about how hard the restaurant industry has been hit because of COVID-19, closing their doors, at best doing curbside and carry out and delivery. How can we help?
Well, I've personally been doing, buying gift certificates at a bunch of local restaurants here in Chicago, from Giuseppe Tintori's GT Fish and Oyster to Carrie Nahavidian, who, is credited with giving Charlie Trotter his start at Gordon Sinclair's, up in Lake Forest. And so I've been buying a bunch of gift certificates, takeout and delivery, at restaurants. That is something that you're still able to do. One of the things that we're doing with the Trotter Project Kitchen Sessions is people can view the Trotter Project Kitchen Sessions for free. And we know a lot of people are worried about, if they're going to have a job in weeks to come or months to come, or they've already been laid off. And so we're just asking viewers for a suggested donation, but we're not expecting, any type of donation. We really want people to, be educated and empowered and be entertained with the kitchen sessions from the safety and the comfort of their home and their kitchens. But the Trotter Project, we did create a COVID-19 relief fund, and we personally have donated. And it's important to note we are a 501c3. We're a charity that helps underserved youth in the far west and south sides of Chicago, Los Angeles, and Boston. And so this is how strongly we feel and are committed to this great restaurant and hospitality industry, that we have donated $10,000 of our own money. We're not a big charity, but we have big goals of giving back and service to others. And so we've donated that to the Restaurant Employee Relief Fund, set up through the National Restaurant Association Educational Foundation and Chef Guy Fieri. And then, any of the suggested donations that come through to www.thetrotterproject.org or through Venmo, we also will take donations that way. They're tax deductible donations, of course, but 50% of those funds go directly to the Restaurant Employee Relief Fund to help those employees who are out of work or their hours have been significantly decreased. The other 50% is going to food banks locally here in Chicago, the Greater Chicago Food Depository, for example. And then we're also providing food and supplies directly to some of our schools. For example, the Montessori School of Englewood, one of our pre-K through 8th grade schools. Even though school is closed, a lot of those families, we have 33 families alone out of 380 plus students who are documented as homeless. And so we have on average daily 50 to 75 families who are coming to the Montessori School of Englewood looking for food. And, we have been asking all of the food suppliers from Viola Imports locally here in Chicago to Direct Food Service in Wooddale that provides the in-flight first class meals to United Airlines. And United Airlines, our hometown airline, is our founding corporate sponsor for the Trotter Project. They donated just Monday 1,000 meals that would have been given to first class passengers, and those went to 1,000 mouths in Englewood. And so there's a lot of people who are stepping up. So there's a lot of ways for people to support, but the biggest thing is to donate and you can donate through thetrotterproject.org.
See, and I think that's great because when Governor Pritzker announced that all the restaurants needed to close to sit down business, I thought, oh, I want to help. There's so many restaurants I like. It got overwhelming really quickly with all the GoFundMe's. I'm like, oh my, I was stressed out and I was profoundly saddened. I'm like, I can't do that. I can't step up and help everybody. I don't know what to do. Having a centralized fund, I think makes it easier for us to contribute, because otherwise it's debilitating almost to have all these different places that need help.
It's right. I mean, you're exactly right. And the thing that we have done, we've made that donation to the Restaurant Employee Relief Fund as of just last week, less than a week since it was launched through the National Restaurant Association Educational Foundation. There's over $8 million in that fund. And so restaurant employees, not just here in Chicago and across Illinois, but truly around the country, are eligible for that process. And so, I'd love for us to be able to give another $10,000 to the fund, or even more so than that, and then additional monies to help area restaurants and our food banks provide food to our hardest hit communities that the Trotter Project already serves on the education side.
Hit that web address one more time.
www.thetrotterproject.org.
Perfect. All right, I've got one more question for you before I let you go. Not like you're going anywhere, but before I let you go. See, I'm of this mindset now that really whoever I ask to do an interview almost has to say yes. Like
right.
When I hang up with you tonight, I'm going to reach out to George Clooney. He has nowhere to be.
Love it. I love it. I don't think I'm certainly not on the same level of George.
Don't
Clooney,
sell yourself short. And I'm going for Clooney. You too, Bono. We could talk about saving the world.
Do it. Hit it hard. I love it.
I never had the chance to go to Moto when it existed. I only knew of its legend. Like this mad scientist.
Yeah.
These crazy food creations, menus printed on food. Tell people about that, because to me, it still occupies a place that no one really gets to anymore, or that doesn't really exist anymore.
So, Hamaro Cantu, a lot of people don't know that he is the only North American chef, not just the only American chef, but the only North American chef. Not Grant Achatz, not Wiley Dufresne, not Thomas Keller, even himself, have received. Hamaro Cantu, right here in Chicago, received the Spheric Award out of the University of Barcelona, and the top chefs throughout Europe are on that illustrious, are part of that illustrious body. I mean, we're talking about um, uh, Ferran Adria of El Bulli. You're talking about Andoni Luis Aduriz. These are all San Pellegrino's World's 50 Best Restaurants. And he received the Spheric Award, and I didn't realize this until I got a call last year. He received it in 2006 for creating the edible menu. And he received it for the edible menu because of its caloric intake. He really considered himself to be a humanitarian and a food scientist first, and was really trying to solve the world's problems through the miracle berry, eliminating sugar from our diet, as well as creating that zero food mile. His famed Michelin starred restaurant right there on Randolph in West Loop. He took his office and converted it into the Moto farm. So when you said when you were eating a microgreen, it truly was zero food mile, because it went from the Moto farm to the plate, to the dish that was being served in front of you in the main dining room. He was really ahead of his time. And he was really one of the main driving forces and our founding president for the Trotter Project. He considered Charlie Trotter not only to be a mentor, but a great father figure to him. And so he rallied the alumni. There's over 800 alumni who worked at Charlie Trotter's over the 25 years. And they've gone on to do great things. And so he said, the one thing that I learned, the biggest lesson I learned from Charlie Trotter was service, how to give back and be of service to your community. And so I'm proud to be one of the co-founders, and we do good each and every day. And I can name, individual students by the tens and hundreds of who we impact, and we change their lives for the better.
I love it. And I've heard a lot of people say things like this, but I'd like to believe, and I do believe, that when we all emerge from our COVID-19 cocoons, we're all going to emerge slightly better versions of the people we went into this as. I think we're much more plugged in and collective and mindful of each other. So initiatives like what you're doing for the neighborhoods, I think this is great. And I love that we can easily contribute and be part of this. So keep up the great work.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, my team, I'm sure I probably drive them a bit crazy at times. We walked into the Montessori School of Englewood, for example, a few years ago, and I saw a vacant parking lot, and I said, we're going to turn that into a farm. And Lakeisha Dunn, who runs our Pillars of Excellence program, she comes from the Englewood neighborhood. I could tell she kind of looked at me like, how are we going to do this? What budget are we going to do it with? What expertise, what resources, so on. And we did, and we partnered up with the Museum of Science and Industry and the University of Illinois Extension Master Gardeners program, and we created a thriving garden. It's sad that we're not able to be there right now to tend to that garden, but I've got other things, in the works, because the big trouble for me is Chicago doesn't have California's 12-month growing season.
Right.
So,
we're getting some fuzzy internet here. You're kind of breaking up. In fact, I may be losing you.
Oh
no, there you are. You're back.
I'm back.
This is the world we live in. It's slightly imperfect now. So I got the gist of what you were saying.
Got it. Good. Yeah. I was just talking about gardens and taking empty parking lots and turning them into thriving, gardens that actually feed people, healthy produce. So yeah, I could just go on about all of the good work, nonstop. So I won't bore you, and I won't bore your listeners on it.
Not boring at all.
You're
doing a great job. Thank you, Derrek, for checking in. This is great. Keep up what you're doing. And when we all emerge from this, I hope to find you at some place, either a dive for a Chicago dog or something, maybe even a little more upscale.
Well, you've got to come to our beer fest that we have in the summer. So we'll do that. And then we've got a whiskey, wine, and Wagyu fest that's pretty popular. And so there's lots of reasons for us to all come together in the near future.
Love it. All right, I'm going to kill the Facebook Live. Thank you for watching on Facebook Live, everybody.